this idea and this thought that the average person, and I don't mean average by ability, I just mean, just your everyday people, right? They think that, and I just learned this through conversations, that people think that you can't do well with your finances and also do well with society, giving back, being generous, being kind. There's a level of greed that comes with being financially well off past a certain extent. I think people are okay with, from a grand scheme, okay with people being a millionaire, having a nice home, and having a nice car, and having one business. But what about when you transcend past that, right? I think there's levels to success and entrepreneurship. I also was listening to a rabbi recently. He was saying that his father, and he put it in a different way, in a real creative way, but he was saying that I'm richer than John D. Rockefeller, who at the time, until recent, and even, depending on how you value the US dollar, he could have been the richest person of United States history, John D. Rockefeller. But his father, the rabbi, he said, I'm wealthier and I'm richer than John D. Rockefeller because of the quality of his life, the children that he raised and their success. And just, he was saying that, hey, it's not all about the quantity of money you have, but the quality of life. I believe in all those things. I think that was very poignant. There is a certain responsibility that comes with a high level of wealth that transcends millionaire status and, just seven figures. When you get to 8, 9, 10 figures of wealth and beyond, you got a huge responsibility, in my opinion. But I do believe there's people who carry that responsibility well, and they do it the right way. Is there some arenas that you have to step into once you get to a certain level of wealth? Absolutely. I think at all levels of wealth, whether you're worth 5,000 or 500 million, you need to be involved with politics and making sure your voice is heard and that you are a part of that process. And obviously, the higher level of wealth that you have, the more access you have. You may go to the same country club as the governor. You may end up giving a political contribution to a presidential elect, but that doesn't mean that you're not doing well. And as it relates to society, I think that there are people who can balance both. I don't think you get to that level and then you just automatically become unethical or your integrity just vanishes. I don't believe that. I believe that the challenges and the things you got to navigate at that level are different. And to the millionaire or somebody with lesser wealth, they may not understand the things that you may have to balance, right? When I give you an example, started my real estate company, Harman Real Estate Company, in 2019, I wasn't necessarily trying to be, I'm going to be the biggest or I'm going to be the best and I'm going to sell more multifamily than everybody else. It was really just like, there's nobody around who's doing this. There's obviously like a blank canvas that I can start to put my imprint on. I quickly got into a point where, like, hey, I'm making, multiple six figures at this point, 26, 27 years old. I don't know anybody who's doing this way. I couldn't call my parents. I couldn't call people in the industry because up until that point, from what I saw, from my point of view, was like, it was kind of closed. It was kind of a closed group. And I couldn't really call somebody and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? Or I'm making this level of income, what should I be doing? I just had to kind of figure it out. And depending on who I had in my corner at that time or who I had access to, that's the level of information that I had, right? And, I made some good decisions just kind of intuitively, and I made some bad decisions too, right? At 33 years old, 6 years later, I'm still cleaning up some of that bad decisions that I just kind of fell into, that I didn't know what to do. And I just, I'm learning from that today, even now. And I know what to do going forward, but I still like to say, like, you really just don't know what you're getting into unless you come from a background of family who's in a certain space. You have access to information from other people. You are seeking wisdom from books. Like, you went to a certain school and it gave you access to a network of people that when you get to certain levels, you can tap into. It's hard, man. It's hard. And I hate to judge people who reach a certain level for the mistakes they make from our point of view, or things they don't do in a way that we think we would do it if we were in their shoes, right? Until you get to a certain level, you kind of don't really know how you're going to navigate in a certain situation. But I do think you could do well in your finances and transcend levels that the 1% get to transcend. And I also think you could do well with philanthropy, giving back, and not just giving back with finances, but information, access for other people who may have come from a similar background as you, or not. Like, maybe they didn't, but you understand their plight to a certain level and you give those people access. I think that is a responsibility as you transcend certain levels, and I think there are people who navigate that really well. I am spiritual, I am religious, I'm a Christian person. Deuteronomy 28, it talks about, and it captivated me one day. Deuteronomy 28, if you know, that's Moses speaking to the people of Israel, and he's talking about all the blessings resources that will come their way. I think 1 through 14 is like all the blessings, and like 15 on is like, if you don't take heed to the word of God, these are all the bad things that can happen to you. But 1 through 14, it always captivates me. And one day, one line caught me. It's like, may your store be blessed. I believe that God, whatever your belief system is, that's your prerogative. I'm Christian, so I read the Bible. When he said that, may your store be blessed. What is a store? It's commerce, it's trade, it's being a merchant, is making a profit. Like, you don't have a store without making profit. You can't get back if you're not making a profit. For that to be one of the mandates of heeding the word of God is that your store will be blessed. Like, I think that who are we to put a limit on that and say that, hey, if you make $1 billion, you're unethical? Like, how can you be a billionaire? Obviously, if they're a billionaire, they set up a structure for them to be a billionaire. Like, their foundation of their business is set up for them to hit a certain level of income, past $1 billion or whatever the case may be. Who are we to say that that blessing isn't for them, or that's wrong because other people don't have? Us being in America and being in a capitalist society, there are going to be some outliers that just really blow it out of the water, and there's going to be a lot of people in the middle, and there's going to be a lot of people at the bottom too. That's just a part of a capitalistic society where it's a free market. There's just going to be different levels of that, right? Of success and prosperity. In a socialistic society, there's going to be a lot of the same because we share the same resources. The government allocates the resources, and they have more control over the assets, the businesses, the real estate, the natural resources, and things of that nature. It's more of a community thing. It's spread out across a lot of people. And there are societies that I've read on that are really successful in that, where maybe it's in Russia. I don't remember where it was. I got to look back on it, and somebody can help me in the comments too if I'm off. But there are some smaller societies where they really do well in socialism, and it's great and it works well for them. We've also seen Mussolini start off as a socialist, and then he ends up being a dictator and abusing it. You talk about somebody like Hitler. It starts off a certain way in socialism, and then it grows into communism and eventually a dictatorship where he's the all-knowing, he's the all-powerful, and now he's abused all these resources that were supposed to be spread out and to take care of people. Now he's abusing it. So I don't think it's necessarily like, hey, it's capitalism, so now we're going to abuse everybody and just there's going to be 1% of people who control everything, because that happens in different societies too, like socialism, communism, and different structures. So you could do well financially and do well for your society and your community. It's a concerted effort. It depends on the type of person you are. It's a lot of factors into it. I read a lot about people with the Jewish faith and how it's about their foundation, really. From a young age, they learn about, wealth and giving back, doing well with relationships, and uplifting their community first as it relates to educating each other and giving to each other and loving each other, and then being able to do well financially and then give back through the vocation that they have, right? I read a lot about that as well. So I just implore you to not be scared. And sometimes these videos are just for me. It's not really for everybody else. I journal, I read a lot, and sometimes it's just like I read and then I go on to the next one, or I read something and I don't take the notes. So this is just another form for me, honestly. If you guys aren't receiving it, I'm receiving it for myself. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful for you, and I'll see y'all in the next video.